morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel L. Connon. Welcome to Freaky Friday, premarketinfo.com.
It is Freaky Friday, quadruple witch, and believe it or not, we had a flash crash in the S&P futures last night, spiking down to 1391 around 8:18 Eastern, and then coming back. We're now trading at 1422, still down 18 handles. Earnings from Research in Motion, Nike, Red Hat, and Walgreens. And Apple approaching the 500 area once again here this morning. What a market move. We'll start with this flash crash from last night. I've got the tape up there for you to give you the tale of the tape. Basically, we were trading around 1440, 1435 at the 8 o'clock equities close. Equities and the after-hours session close at 8 o'clock Eastern. After that, liquidity always drops a bit in the E-mini just because you don't have the statistical arbitrage players playing the stocks versus the index. So there's just less liquidity in the overall index because you can't arbitrate with the stocks. So all of a sudden, obviously the news was that Boehner pulled Plan B there on the tax bill. That came out around 7:45, and then it just started to sell off. It kept drifting down, until you get to about 8:18. We're trading 1423, so down about 16, 17 handles, and then the market just caves in.
Right. Looking at, I was also looking at the limits today, and there is a 50-point down limit in the session. If you take the current high, yesterday's high, 1441 and a quarter, you were trading down 50 points at 1391 and a quarter. That also coincides very nicely with the December 5th low of 1390.50. Limit down situations, you don't see them very often. People came in and just scooped up those futures.
They did.
And we got a nice bounce here, but boy, we're still down almost 20 points on the day.
Let's just analyze that specific flash crash. So it really happened here right around 14, you can see on the tape here at 8:18:42. It starts to cascade down, and we just start to go very rapidly. I'm just watching the tape fall here, 14:16, 14:15:75, and we just start falling all in the same second here. We continue to fall here. I'm going to speed up the tape a little bit here. 14:12, 14:10. 1409, 1405. Now we're 2 seconds later. We're at 1425. You can see some big size going by too. There was some size traded here. Like somebody threw away millions of dollars here. I don't know if this was one person or if it was a few systems, or I don't know what it was, but it was it all happened in a couple of seconds, really. 2018-44, and then we get down to 1392, and then we actually do hit limit down. So the stop logic on the CME actually halts the trading for 10 seconds. That's why there's no trades between 44 and 54. It reopens at 1391.25. That's the low, and then it just starts to spike up quickly. 1392, and you can see, I'm just going to speed up the tape. The next 5-10 seconds, we're basically already back at 1407. So, and then if you keep speeding the tape up a little bit farther, by the time you get up to a minute later, we're already trading back up in the 1420 area. So this whole event took just over a minute to happen. Not sure who sold down there or if there was multiple participants, but whoever sold down there lost a lot of money in a hurry.
Well, you also have to figure that there are sell stops on the book in the COMEX market that are live. So once that kind of situation, I mean, 1,000 share sell stop can be triggered by, not 1,000 share, but 1,000 contract stop can be triggered by just one contract trading at that price. So most likely you had some stops at some even numbers, 1410, 1400, and then once you got that 55 points below fair value, folks stepped in and brought us up to that level. But now we have to. What do we do now here? We've had a very, very nice rebound in the market. What's interesting to me is we're only 5 points away from yesterday's low at 1427 and a quarter. So that's going to be our first major resistance point. We're hanging out here in the low 1420s. Coming below that, I see minor support at 1416. And then, there are some lows between 14.16 and 13.91 and a quarter. So keep an eye on those levels. I'm going to be changing the numbers on the site momentarily. And, don't want to, send anybody heading for the hills. But the 5% limit down, which would be active during the 9:30 session, would be
I
13.68.50.
don't think we're going to see it. I think we've seen the low of the overnight low. I'm going to go
Oh,
out
you're
on a
really
limb.
stepping out here,
I'm going to
Dennis.
go out on a limb and say 1391.25. I know I'm really stepping on a limb. Just crazy though that can happen overnight. But it was not a lot of volume, and I think you're exactly right, Joel. I think it was stops getting hit, so you had multiple participants. So that's the moral of the story. Don't use stops. You can get triggered really badly sometimes. Mental stops are one thing, but those physical stops out there, it's you can get some ugly execution sometimes. So we're not a big fan of using the physical stops. It's one thing to use mental stops. It's another thing to actually put the stops on the books because we know sometimes those stops can get run too. Uh,
And before we move on to the other things, when you called me last night with the very excited phone call, what was going on, and you said, it's too bad, none of the equities are trading. I had an epiphany, and this is special for our listeners on the show, but perhaps ICE and the New York Stock Exchange, they're going to hook up, they're going to get these stocks trading 24 hours a day,
wow.
just like the Globex system.
Can you
And if they
imagine?
did that, and they could provide liquidity during the after hours, similar to what Globex
Wow.
has, then you got something. Then I'm going out and buying those ICE shares.
Well, they have talked about that. That's obviously been talked about, not ICE in New York, but you've heard, rumors of different things that eventually the equities might go 24 hours, like the e-minis go too. I'm not going to get a lot of sleep if that happens, obviously. So I don't know if I want that to happen or not. But interesting thoughts there, Joel. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but you never know. Like if they the first person or first exchange to obviously get the equities trading overnight is going to have a lot of volume there to trade too, because there's more opportunities. Research in Motion reported earnings. Chart actually probably
Doesn't
looks.
do it justice.
No, well, this chart doesn't do it justice because it's not adjusted for the after hours trading, which is what has happened here. But believe it or not, Research in Motion got up to 15.50 on their earnings. They beat. They lost 22 cents and they were supposed to lose 35, and the stock was trading a buck 40 higher. And then they started with the conference call. And I guess Heinz didn't do very good on the conference call because the stock just started to sell off during the call. They had concerns that he wasn't answering very much or giving very much details on the BlackBerry 10. Might be a little ways. So I think that's why it started selling off. And man, this stock has just been murdered since then. It's down at 12.29 right now. So believe it or not, this thing has an after-hours range of 15.50 to 12:02.
And who says those half and whole numbers don't work? What I think happened is when they started talking on the margin calls, they started talking about making changes to their higher end services. Where they make
Right.
like 30% of their revenues, and that's going to put a pinch on the bottom line. But here we'll just look at it from a technical basis. Look at this $12 level, Dennis. You
Yeah.
had a bunch of highs in there. We did sneak through there a couple times down the 1166, 1188 level. Right now, 1205 is holding up in the pre-market. After this kind of range here, I think you're going to have this 12 acting as support, and perhaps trade up, and perhaps get in. It's going to take a little bit to get into yesterday's
A
low
lot of error though.
range. Yeah, but I like the $12 level as support.
And if you go below there, if you take the lows of all those moves, you see all the highs around the 1202. There
Yep.
actually was multiple lows in the 1160, 1165 area too. So I think if you cut through 12, that may be the next area of support is at 1162, 1160 area.
Yeah, I agree.
Nike reported earnings here too, and the stock is trading higher, $102.60. So it's one stock that's up today. After closing at 99, they beat a buck 14 against estimates of a buck. Janney Capital didn't love it; they downgraded it this morning, but it doesn't matter. Stock's still trading higher.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's trading higher under these conditions. You did get a pop up to 105.50 in the pre-market. The dip is taking us down to 102.10. So that will be very, very minor support. You take out this 102 level. I don't want to be long with your money. Coming down to yesterday's range, you had a couple tops at 99.05, 99.20. So besides the 102, that 99 will be the major support.
Red Hat also reported earnings. The stock is trading higher too. They matched the estimates on the earnings, but the revenue was quite a bit higher, so that's why the stock is trading up 55.40 right now after closing 52.61. So here's another stock that's given a little bit of life to the equities.
Yeah, 56.40 was the high, and it sold off considerably since then. Just hanging above the low here at 55.20. Below that 55.20, you have a ways to go to get into yesterday's range at 55.12. But keep an eye on this 55 level as a swing number, minor support here. Also, from what I'm seeing, there's just not a ton of volume associated with this move.
3,400
So I'd be
shares.
careful
That's fine.
if you're getting long off the open here. Do it with a
Could go
tight stop.
anywhere. It could go anywhere. These ones here are always harder to call. It's thinner trading. It's on earnings. There's lots of volatility in the overall market here too. Quadruple witch. There's so many things happening here. So very hard to call a top on something like this, or a bottom for that matter. One other one I want to talk about with earnings is Walgreens. 58 cents against estimates of 70, so they missed. Stocks trading down 70 cents here. What a run this thing had in the last month and a half. After buying 32, it's been pretty much straight up. Obviously today it's giving some of that back, but considering they missed by 12 cents here, stock's holding up fairly well.
Yeah, someone got all over the was trading all over the place on this thing. It did dip below $36, got down to
Really?
35.86, and then you had a pop here up to 37.10. So a lot of indecision here in the pre-market. Only 25,000 shares have traded here. So light volume for this stock that trades between 7 and 9 million a day. Looking at the dailies as support. I mean, you really don't have major support down to the 36.22 level. That's been traded through in the pre-market. So keep an eye 36 even at 36.22 as minor support.
Well, obviously the overall market here is down 18 points still. So you have a lot of your S&P components are trading down, and Apple is one that's trading down $10 right now at 511. Here's a stock. I was actually trying to buy the 510 puts yesterday. I was going to put on a spread. I was going to buy the 510s, sell the 505s, looking, and I could have put it on for 32 cents, and I was trying to put on a little bit cheaper. So basically, if I'd have that option trade on, I'd be looking to try to make the $5 if Apple actually went down to 505, and I'd only be risking 30 cents. So it's giving me a risk return of like 15 to 1 there. I wish I would have put the damn trade on, because here it is. 511 and a quarter. I'm sure I could have been up some pretty solid money here, because Apple could get down here to that 505 area today.
You probably missed it by a penny. You're
Oh yeah,
probably
I'm so cheap, man. I'm trying to
sitting on the
save a
bed.
couple of cents, and the stock was up at 523, so it's not like it's not a high probability trade when it's over 13 points out of the money. But I just had a feeling Apple had a kind of a weak day yesterday. I was like, it could
Yeah,
have
did
another
you?
weak day again today, and
Oh,
obviously I didn't think we're gonna have this overnight flash crash in the minis here that really drove everything down, or the Boehner plan obviously too. So I wish I would have had a little bit more, or I
yeah.
wish I would put the trade on.
Obviously. Did you notice yesterday with Apple that I mean the Spoos had a decent rally yesterday off the low.
Yep,
Got on to 1430, and I was watching this thing.
didn't participate.
I'm like, okay, Apple's gonna go, Apple's gonna go,
Nope,
and it never went.
nope.
Ended up settling less than 3 points off the low of the day. So that was not a good sign for Apple shareholders. Looking at the pre-market here, 510.50 has been the low. We're just hovering over that. You got to keep an eye. Minor support when we traded down to 505.58. 501.23 is close to that critical $500 level.
Yeah.
There's going to be some stops there. Coming back on the upside if it gets near yesterday's low. which is 518.88. They're going to look as resistance.
I'm getting very nervous here because I always usually say there's no such thing as a triple bottom. You obviously had the bottom back in mid-November. We bottomed here again just 4 trading sessions ago at the 501 area. We're coming down here again the third time. Third time could be a charm. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do take this down and try to get it below 500 because they know they're going to trigger some stops. And according to your article that you wrote there yesterday, Joel, which is up on the site, there's not the heck of a lot of support under the 500 area. We obviously ran up, like you were citing in the article, from 400 to 500 in 2 months. So that what that means is that in this area, there's just not a lot of reference points. So there's not a lot of traders who have accumulated positions in this area, meaning that if it comes back through that area, it could probably do it fairly quickly. Not saying it's going to go straight to 400, but there's just not a lot of reference points. So, it could cut under 500, be a 480 in a matter of a day, or, it could bottom 490. There's just not a lot of reference points to put trades on from.
Yeah, it's scary too because it went up, in 2 months,
Yeah,
through that area.
yeah.
And as we all know, for trading the markets over all these years, the markets go down a heck of a lot faster than they go up. So that 2 month gain there, could be wiped out in 3, 4, 5 sessions here. But we're getting
We
a
don't
little
think
bearish
it'll do
here. We're
that.
getting a little bearish
Yep,
here, So be careful. Just keep traders, please keep an eye on the 1416 level. That represents the mid-session from the overnight activity. Good old volatility's back here for the last week of the year.
It really is.
Under 1460. I checked the minor support points that I put out down to the Globex low of 1391 and a quarter.
Let's look at a couple other stocks here. Facebook here trading down again back. We drew this channel for you. It's back at the bottom of the channel once again, 26.75. So it's down 70 cents here with the overall market. Obviously, you cited that low at 26.32. I mean, it's critical it stays above there, but every time it gets into these mid 26s, it seems to pop back up. Is it going to do that again today?
I don't think so. I think with the market sentiment here, I think that 26.32 is going to go out. You do have some minor support points, but the next major support would be at 25.46. That was the low on November 27th. But it's just looking heavy here. I mean, you can draw the line across the highs, and then draw a line across the lows, and it's kind of like Apple hanging out around 525, 530 when it came down the first time. When it hangs out there and it doesn't go up, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, concerns for sure. Google trading down here about $9. Actually, the spread on Google and Apple is now 202 points if you're keeping track of that, because Google's at 713 down 9, where Apple's trading around 510 right now. I talked about this trend. The trend is still intact here. It's telling me the bottom of the trend line's around 706. So call the whole area 700. We want the stock to stay above 700, because if it breaches that, then this trend line is broken.
Yeah, the last 3 lows between 715.05 and 716.97. So if you do get a rally up to that 716, 717 level, that should act as excellent resistance. Probably have to use a stop above the 720. Below that, 704.02 is the 4-day low on the stock. That's about $1 away from that 705 level, which we have talked about on the show a few times. That represents the 50% retracement of this entire move that Google had. So keep an eye on the 704, 705 if you get a short off at 716.
General Electric trading down here too, obviously with the overall market down at 2075 right now. We talked about this level here the other day. 2071 was a low on the 4th. That's the number you had cited. I like this 2050 number though too. So I know we're 25 cents away from there, but I think you get good support down at 2050.
Yeah, and if you get any kind of pop in this thing, a little reflex rally, you might get a chance to short this thing at yesterday's low, which was 2087. That's really not far from where we're trading now, and I'm sure all those guys that wanted to sell at 22 and got got picked off by the high freaks. They'll be moving their orders down to 21 today, so that should act as major resistance.
Well, overall market, obviously, we weren't expecting such a sell-off overnight. So now it's a lot of air below here. 1391.25, obviously the overnight low. We're down 22 points, hanging out at 1418. Before we close here, what's your thoughts for today?
As I mentioned, this 1416 is a critical level. It needs to hold. I think if we don't hold 1416, I think we're going to drop back down to the 1400 level and perhaps test that overnight low at 1391 and a quarter. I think that now the 1325 to 1330 area, you had a couple lows there from earlier in the week. That is going to be
1420, yeah,
1425, 1413. What's the difference? I think that now that is going to act as major resistance, and boy, I just don't see us getting over yesterday's low. But anything can happen in these markets, as you well know. Play things close to the vest. Don't be a hero on either side of the market because there's going to be a lot of good trading opportunities today.
Well, we're still alive anyways. The Mayans looks like their prediction's going to fail. When I was looking at 818 last night, I got a little concerned. I was like, maybe I've missed the news and the world ended when the market was falling 50 points. But it looks like the Mayans are wrong, so it looks like we're still around. So that being said, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.